far both these teams have come in the past year.
And I think the place where you could have ended off at was probably just the We Live in a Society. That probably would have still gotten the point across.
I wanted to transition.
Still a
better.
very exciting game, though. I would have to agree. Both Nokturns and Karn&Co have a incredibly good chance of actually winning this matchup, and it does make sense that we are going to Oregon out of all maps to probably see the most anticipated game of the day. And already the bans are slightly different from what you would expect. No Thatcher, but all the bans that are currently on the board right now still have valid reasons for them not being on the board. So still a big fan of this phase so far, Carter.
See if Nocturnes continue with their contractual obligations and ban Mira. What do you know? They will not be sued today for doing a different defensive ban than what we would normally expect. Taking out the Ying, we saw quite a bit of Ying on Oregon yesterday. Well, we saw a lot of Oregon yesterday, period. But speaking of ATK, who just played, they played the Ying religiously on their attacks. But of course, these are two different teams, neither of which have played Oregon so far in the season. We have Thatcher on the board, John. We do not have to worry about spending a minute and a half stuck on a hatch because there's an Electric Claw in a position that you just simply cannot land utility on. All you have to do now, throw an EMP grenade next to it, and you don't need to worry. You can open it up with a Hibana, with a Hard Breach charge, whatever you want. With Attacker Repick, you could switch if you want. You go to, I don't know, Athena like Zero. Zero has Hard Breach charges. Whitlock, you don't need to get on the Hibana. You have Thatcher. Hard Breaching is so much easier now.
And in general, having the EMPs on the board does weaken the overall util presence as well by Nocturnes. So depending on how exactly they want to attack on this first round, there is a very valid option that they could just straight up just work through everything instantaneously and get pretty quick site control in comparison to what you normally see when this basement site is in play. Still having to worry about that extension, though, could prolong that inevitable top and middle floor clear, which probably because the Thatcher being on the board, that is the main reason why the Nocturnes want to go for the site extensions, because they know how vulnerable that site presence can be when the EMPs are on the board. So this does force a little bit of give and take between both Karn&Co and Nocturnes very early in the round, instead of it being all just based on the basement floor.
Ooh, very nice drone by Mikey looking at Nyx right now on that top floor. The owner has already moved into position on top white stairs, and it's not Nyx who falls, but 30 seconds in, Exiled already off the board. Nyx has hightailed it over to Big Tower Stairs. Not looking to fully retreat just yet. He's got Lackey for some support if they wanted to make an aggressive play. But they'll sit back on the stairs as they've already suffered a pretty cataclysmic loss early on, losing that C4, which could be very helpful if Karn&Co will get to that execute stage later on. And that is, of course, assuming they don't get a couple more picks in the next minute or so.
Not having to worry about security any longer. That fallback has happened. Just need to make sure they do not completely forget about the presence near back stairs. But in all honesty, you don't really need that kind of control. You could go for more of a laundry and freezer kind of approach and not even have to worry about those positions like the back stairs and like Blue Bunker, for example, especially since, again, you have that instant hatch presence, especially with the security hatch being already opened up because that was a place for an extension. There are a lot of options on the board here for Karn&Co to once again just make quick work of this basement floor, especially since they have a really good opening in this 5 versus 4, and there isn't that much of a site presence because there's still a bunch of players stacked up in that back area of Big Tower.
Owen are just looking for an opening, not finding one, as after losing that player early on, Nocturnes aren't too keen to get aggressive with the players moving down towards the site. Xeno, of course, with 2 grenades, doesn't even have to take a heads-up engagement. He can throw a nade out into the to long if he wants to. Could throw one all the way back towards the launching machine if he ends up seeing somebody cross and he isn't able to land the shots. Only a minute left in Karn&Co. Still taking their time, trying to find this remaining pieces and bits of intel before they start pushing forward. The utility starts flying out, and the first nade comes through, but Lackey, he anticipates that. As he gets blinded, he immediately sprints into the hallway outside. It's Poison that takes the next massive bit of damage. He expends all of his utility to try to hold off this freezer push for as long as he can, but it's all for naught. Felwinter takes down 2 as Mikey gets his second kill as well, and Nyx, the first one who left the roam upstairs, is now the last one alive. He's got some intel on one player, but the shots, they're the things that matter, and he cannot land them, unfortunately. A very quick attack by Karn&Co. Something I, again, would not have described them whatsoever just 1 year ago.
And they still took their time as well. They had the man advantage, but they didn't want to rush into anything before they were 110% sure they were in the right position to do do so. They waited for their players inside of Laundry to fully move out into the basement floor. They waited to have everybody stacked up to go for that util clear. They didn't jump the gun, and because of that, Nocturns had to be the one to make the hero-esque kind of play when they were still in a 5v4, not favoring them, and then that just allowed for Karn&Co to simply go for a trade game, which wasn't even necessary either because they didn't really lose any life on that first round. So that was just overall a fantastic round to start off on the right foot for Karn&Co and really not let Nocturns get away with anything too crazy so far.
Nocturns are not even trying basement a second time around. This isn't, this isn't kitchen dining we're talking about. This is basement, what is sometimes considered to be the stronghold for Oregon. They'll jump immediately to dorms all the way upstairs. It's not that their setup is strange or bad. It's, it's what we'd expect on dorms. They'll probably have Nyx playing down below. He's got that C4 and that shotgun. He can play the vertical if Karn&Co, say, go for a big window take. But it is a little bit worrying that Nocturnes lost confidence so quickly in their basement defense. Even though it might have been a flawless, it still seemed like there might be workable pieces if they held back a little bit.
Maybe having something like the castle perhaps could have helped them out in that first round.
If you want to go for that round.
They will try to go into kids before they reattempt that. I don't really blame them. Still just trying to get a feel as to how Karn&Co want to approach in every single round. And maybe they'll just have an easier time approaching on this top defense in comparison to Laundry and Supply. Again, especially since we have that Thatcher on the board, but what no longer is an option, of course, is that Flores as Mikey is going to get the first loss of life here for Karn&Co, and that could maybe help with the shield presence being around for a lot longer, but only having poison with that shield as secondary gadget, I'll be proven wrong pretty quickly.
You do still have those Ash charges for Feltwinter as well, and even a nade for Zeno. So losing the Flores is pretty bad, but probably be a little bit worse if they, say, lost Karn on the Thatcher instead of the Flores, because they can still use those EMPs to open up that closet wall, which I believe Karn will do right now. I believe we'll see it open up in just a little bit. Then they can focus entirely on moving over to Attic or Big Window wherever they want. I would imagine probably looking like Attic right now, especially because we saw the Ying ban earlier. Not a lot of smokes on the board for Karn&Co. Probably see a rotation over to Attic side and use more of those EMPs to open up a second avenue to move towards the site.
And a big thing here, because again, Thatcher on the board, you don't really need to have a lot of utility burn just because that EMP can get rid of so much. So not having a lot of flashbangs isn't that big of an issue because you still have just enough util to go deny that setup and just go for the grenade tosses directly. That gets rid of the Banshee, so that does allow ease of access inside of the Deer doorway leading in through the site, not only just from that back wall that was opened up leading from closet into foosball, but also that position inside of Deer doorway. And matter of fact, we have Feltwinter as well getting quite aggressive inside of Attic. I don't think they're aware of this card. This could be a huge play for Karn&Co to equalize.
That could be massive. I thought they might, use some X-Kairos to move into Attic, but instead it's a Repel and Feltwinter storming on in that evens the man count back up for Karn&Co. They might have been distracted by the player on Repel as Feltwinter catches Exod completely off guard. A single solitary shot is what signals Exod falling to the floor. And even though it's a 3v3, Karn&Co could start moving in for the plant. That's exactly what they'll do. Zeno vaults in. Bomb goes down successfully. Nyx get countered down below. There must have been some kind of lapse of intel as both him and Slothy both hit the floor. Lackey stomps up White Stairs and spots one crossing inside of dorms. There's little to nothing he can do here beyond hoping that Zeno loses that fight. And with the LMG off of 2 kills as well, that's unlikely.
I gotta admit, huge fan of the late rotation by both Feltwinter and Carnage, and it wasn't just the default rotate. We didn't have anyone try to roam clear with a drone near Z heading up into White Stairs. We didn't have anybody drop from the roof leading into Big Window. No. It was both the kids window and then Attic as well, which are some of the strongest positions to deny a default plant that leads in through closet, especially when you don't have that pincer attack that leads in by getting the back Attic wall open up. That completely, again, it caught Nocturnes kind of off guard and it forced them to get uncomfortable again on their defenses. And when you think of a map like Oregon, you don't ever think of the defenders being in an uncomfortable position, but Karn&Co are willing to take those aggressive stances and just try to work for those gunfights, and so far they've been outdueling Nocturnes to get that vital map pressure and actually push into the site with again a lot of comfort and a lot of breathing room.
Only 2 rounds in, and Karn&Co have already made themselves a terrifying force on Oregon going forward. Nocturnes will jump back down to basement as neither of the primary sites have seemed to be good for them at all. We had a flawless, and then the next round, sure, it was worse because you can't really improve on a flawless if it, didn't have flaws. But it was still an incredibly good round for Karn&Co, moving in through that attic, as you said. Here, Nocturns will put a little bit more focus on that roam. We'll have Nyx move to the Aruni, play a lot more aggressively inside of Meeting Room itself. But Karn&Co still have that Thatcher to open up that stage wall very quickly if they want to, so Nyx might still rotate very soon.
Fortunately, not having the castle, this could allow for potentially a faster fallback than anticipated. And I feel like, especially, again, I hate how we keep referencing this, but Thatcher being on the board, he is just such a powerhouse put in the right hands. And that has been a true fact in these first couple of rounds. And already, because of that lack of general util extension on the top floor, just a player basis, it has allowed Karn&Co to gain a decent amount of map control and already figure out how they want to approach this round. It looks like they might go for more of a blue bunker and backstairs kind of approach instead of going for the normal move around in through small tower, clear out kitchen, and that main roam game. Instead, they're going to want to go through big tower, get this back meeting wall opened up, and already apply pressure onto people such as Nyx, who are probably expecting longer angles to contend with rather than something so up close and personal.
Ooh, I thought he might drop down that hatch, but he decides to stay just for a little bit longer. But now all of the attack strikes. He only tags Mikey, well, not a little bit, takes over half of his health with one shot, but Mikey still takes him down. That's a roamer who could have got away, maybe aided the site later on, but Nyx decides to stay just a few more seconds, play his luck, try and go 1-for-1, and it ends up failing. Now Slothy is by himself. He does not have as easy of an option to rotate down, though since there is no presence by the attack on that side, he can move back downstairs. The one thing I'm worried about right now, only 2 drones for Karn&Co. We're still not too close to an execute.
Still need to fully set things up. They haven't had anybody late rotate down blue bunker, which could allow somebody actually to play in there directly and have a nice crossfire, especially if they have somebody playing actively inside a pillar or just near the freezer doorway. That could allow for a lot of issues to be had, but finally, that late round rotation occurs by Karn&Co, and they're just about ready to start applying pressure instead of supply directly.
Yeah, Felt's able to take pillar, and this is a position that teams can often get stuck up on if they're trying to go for a back tower take, but it's completely free. Nobody from Nocturns was in there, and Felwinter could take that with no recourse from the defense. Well, we could send Lackey or Slothy, one of the two, send over a C4, blow Karn sky high, so that is still a worry. Might be sending out that EMP for that exact purpose, hoping that maybe he can stop one or at least delay the time a little bit. It goes over, and it lands right behind Karn. That's the one worry that we had for Karn&Co's attack, was not only was there one C4 that worked, there's now a second, and Slothy, he's right in the position, but Felwinter takes him down immediately the moment that C4 leaves his hand. Sure, Mikey falls, but Karn&Co have still managed to hold on for just a little bit, but the defense gets the better of the angle so far, and with Whitlock alone, diffuser not even in hand. It's the first defense for Nocturns.
And they were able to still have plenty of denial for that actual bomb that was trying to go down to the diffuser, I should actually say. Funny enough, they might have relied a bit too heavily on Whitlock trying to hold for those cutoff angles leading in from the back wall into freezer doorway, rather than having anybody get overtly aggressive heading out in through either highway or someone just near that general pillar area. Even the single wall, which we saw being held by the Ash to stop the second nitro cell from happening, they weren't able to get rid of the smoke or even that first nitro cell. It caused a lot of chaos there for Karn&Co, and they probably did not expect an instant fallback by a majority of that player basis that was up on the top floor. I'm glad that we at least saw full commitment there by the majority of the Nocturne defenders that were up in that middle floor trying to waste time, which a fair amount of it was. And then they wanted to go for the site presence to stop that plant from going down. So much better decision making overall by Nocturnes to finally get a round in the books against Karn&Co.
Yeah, just a solid move to play off that utility instead of maybe trying to take those fights inside a pillar. Good strategic decisions by Nocturnes. We'll have a timeout, I believe, by Nocturnes as well, which just now coming to the end too, so we can soon take a look at where they're opting to go. Of course, that was their first win, so Dorms still on the board for Nocturnes if they want to go to it, or they could go to one of those tertiary sites, probably Meeting Hall Kitchen, just because teams don't really go to kitchen dining. It's not the best, and they will be going to Meeting Hall, as you just saw. Karn&Co still have the same tools and tricks up their sleeve that they can make work with. They have that Thatcher, they have that Hibana, but Nocturnes, they will put a lot of eggs into the basket for a roam. Exod on the Vigil, Slothy and Lackey on the Mozzie and the Mute respectively, with some intel on the site as well, with Nyx on that Maestro. So trying to, both get some intel on the site once Karn&Co end up going for the plant. After all, they are a team who always try to win the round by going for that plant. So getting those Maestro camps inside of the site is necessary. Also denying that intel with the Mute and the Mozzie and the Vigil. We saw how low Karn&Co's drone count got towards the end of that round, and they've already lost 3 drones before the action phase has even started. That Mute, Mozzie, and Vigil combo could be problematic. Or, well, now it says they have all 10 drones. I'm actually not sure what happened there, but...
As you said that, we did have 1 drone get shot, but still, only 1. Better than having just 2 left. That's definitely a big number differential there. For Karn&Co, I think they understand that there is going to be a much bigger emphasis on dealing with that roam pressure, so they don't need to worry all that much about hard destruction, hence getting rid of the Thatcher, and they do have enough burn with just 2 sets of flash grenades to go in and completely blind everybody when they're on that roam game, and also just still play with their grenades. Fellwinter almost loses their life by somebody, I believe, holding all the way down through Big Tower, if not someone playing aggressive near the area of Deer, but thankfully he'll still live. It's that 5 versus 5, and now they can just get healed up by a couple of adrenaline surges and still be in a relatively decent shape to try to go for these aggressive swings and try to get rid of this roam game before it ends up wasting too much time off the clock of Karn&Co.
I doubt Feltwinter will be too scared because of that. I also see 1 Evil Eye upstairs dedicated to the roam, though Feltwinter makes quick work of that once he spots it over by the big window. Now they actually have to do the work of clearing out Exod, clearing out Lackey, and, well, half of that equation is very effectively solved by Mikey, who just walks up white, catches Lackey lacking, and, well, down goes the Mute. Exod stays for just a little bit to put Feltwinter even lower after those couple adrenaline surges, but he, too, will leave quickly. Maybe not in the same fashion as Lackey, he'll keep his head this time.
Constant map control being established by Karn&Co. Only that 1 roamer still on that top floor. He ended up having to fall back because, well, he just ended up dying, actually, matter of fact. So already a lot being accomplished here for Karn&Co, having that man advantage and not having to worry all that much about a flank because the Nomad is on the board instead of that Thatcher. It does allow this to become a very linear take for the side of Karn&Co. They just need to make sure they have their air jabs placed in every perfect direction because there is still 1 person of Exod that could potentially wrap their way around inside of Attic, but we might have just saw off screen that they got droned out, so at least the intentions are known by Karn&Co to make sure that Exod cannot go for some sort of redemption arc here in this 4th round.
He hops back down pretty quickly after that drone spotted him. He stayed just long enough where I was like, surely not, right? But no, he goes back. Now all 4 remaining defenders are down towards the site. Karn will send a flash into Freezer in the hopes of clearing out Nyx, but I don't think it lands. He actually evades the blinding effect, and Feltwinter falls in response. So pushing up white now not nearly as a strong possibility, and, well, I think Karn tried to do it as well, and Nyx impact grenades him for his troubles. Whitlock will do the exact same thing his team just did, but any hopes of clearing the Maestro out of that position are long gone. You have to turn your attention towards the site, and there's still utility you have to deal with. Zeno somehow makes his way into Freezer, gets 1, but only 1 kill, at least assuming that Nyx doesn't do anything crazy, which a second impact kill, I'd probably consider that a little wild. Won't stop Whitlock from getting the bomb down, and he actually lives. Mikey does get 1, and he's retreated upstairs. Nyx is in ace territory right now with 2 impact grenade kills, 2 with his Alda as well, but Mikey has the advantage of verticality. He's still got that sledgehammer to open up holes. He can probably hear them stomping up white, so he'll pull back into Attic as a response. Spots the Slothy, puts him to 1 HP. He'll slowly turn around, but Nyx is hitting the defuse. Mikey's got to sprint over. Is Nyx going to stick it? Does he have time? He'll fall off for the moment, but now it's Mikey who can play the advantage. Nyx only has a few seconds left. He opens up another hole. He's got to be careful. Don't give himself up to the Alda, but now Nyx has to stick it. Mikey spots the feet and wins the 1v2 and gets Karn&Co their 3rd attack on Oregon of all maps.
A close call indeed, especially since Nyx was, honestly, in the namesake, an absolute nightmare in the middle of Freezer stairs, but that's mostly because of the improper timing and really no genuine coordination. It was just a solo clear to get rid of that Maestro, and with somebody as dangerous as Nyx, with such a powerful gun of that Alda, that is a very risky decision, especially when you don't have a lot going for you. Besides really that vertical coverage, it was only a matter of time before blood had to be shed in the middle of Kitchen, and eventually that happened. But another big problem there for Nocturns as well is we didn't have anybody try to get aggressive to stop that plant from going down. Besides the vertical play, there was literally no coverage, and if we just had multiple bodies stomp in on the Habana, there was no way we would have saw the Sledge actually be able to hold that position without just having the case player get completely denied and having that be a good chance of Nocturns winning that round, other than off the back of Nightmare Nyx.
Still find it funny that his name is Nightmare Nix. That was not the
It's great.
not the rebrand that I expected. Well, I mean, he's been called Nightmare Nix before, but I didn't think it'd be Nightmare.Nix. That was a rebrand.
Now it's official.
Yeah, rebrand I did not anticipate, but not one that I am sad to see. Also not sad to see some changes from Karn&Co. We'll see a shift. Whitlock, he's like, Hibana, washed. Going the Thermite instead. And Mikey moving to the Osa. We've actually seen Osa quite a bit yesterday throughout the Playday, even on Oregon in some situations. We saw, again, ATK use it a lot specifically for their meeting defenses when they would go for a stage plant. They put an Osa shield in front of Attic to make sure nobody could play the hatch, and an Osa shield in front of the stage wall to watch split. Neither of that is really applicable right now because Exod is inside of Big Tower, and Nyx is raining hellfire upon the player outside that door, and I guess Exod just forgot to shoot back, but Lackey, he certainly did not forget to help his teammate.
At least there's that great trade. No longer having to worry about the Osa shields as well. That definitely relieves a lot of pressure that could have occurred later in the round. But we can still have Karn&Co safely clear out the rest of this top floor through the big tower and then begin to get that vertical down. But the timing overall by Karn&Co has been much slower, and that's just based off of where they're actually attacking. They received a lot of early aggressions out by Nocturns. They were able to trade, get rid of that Vigil, but now they have to set almost all of their attention working in through Addict and then still have to deal with that multi-defense setup to make sure that they don't get caught with their hands tied, essentially. But Nyx, able to catch Feltwinter off guard, will bring back that man advantage here for Nocturns. And now not only do they have to worry about the top floor presence, Carter, but they also have to worry about Nyx holding a nasty angle with that ult in the middle of meeting.
Karn was just praying that Nyx would peek there. You can make it a 3v3, but Nyx will hold back for the time being. While you did lose the Osa, you don't necessarily need those shields to do what you need to do to get a stage plant down. You can still have Xeno watch upstairs, have somebody watch split as well. Of course, you have less bodies to do it, but that's not a question of, say, Osa's utility. That's more so that you've lost 2 bodies before we've even reached the execute phase. There's still Lackey up top who could provide some problems for the Finka, but instead he'll just drop back down the moment a nade gets sent on through. Xeno has control of the hatch and might be able to find an angle here if the opportunity presents itself, but for the moment, nothing just yet. Some intel being relayed to the player on stage as well. Nyx takes a little bit of damage and sends out an impact, but it's not enough to stop the single panel from being destroyed, and now he'll drop downstairs. Looks like we're close to an execute, but Karn&Co still holding for just a little bit.
He's trying to work some sort of kill here. The Toxic Canister is able to hold Carnage at bay. He cannot walk through the kitchen doorway just yet. And the options here are still not many here for Karn&Co. They never fully cleared out that top floor to really bear any potential fruit. Xeno finally catches something, at least onto Poison, but they still need to worry about Nyx, who's brought himself back in the middle of meeting on top of the stage, downs out the Nomad, and now the plant has to go down with the potential of a flank because that Whitlock has to reposition, and they're not aware somebody's right in the middle of security. Lacken could maybe win this fight. Also have Slothy up in the middle of the site as well. There goes the play from the backside. Lackey stops the plant from going down, and Slothy as well joins in on the fun, and it looks like this defensive round will end completely differently from what we saw the round prior.
Definitely going 1-for-1 up top. Of course, we saw Exod just kind of sitting there. Maybe that was the plan. Maybe Exod was like, hey guys, I'll die, but Lackey, if you do your job, we'll catch somebody on the rappel. Don't know if that was the plan, if Exod was meant to die, or if that was just lucky timing, even with Exod falling. They're able to take down the Osa, which, again, you can still accomplish the same thing without those shields, but it's still an important operator that you'll have to miss. And then later on, when Nyx gets that kill, that was where things started going sour for Karn&Co. Stalled out heavily after losing 2 bodies, and they never really seemed to be able to find an opening once Nocturnes stopped peeking, and they needed to somehow get that man advantage back. Going back down to basement, Nocturnes have also won this site, but then again, Karn&Co flawless them on it in round number 1. If Karn&Co win a 4th attack here, we better hope that their defenses, or if you're a Nocturnes fan, we better hope that their defenses are abysmal. Because a 4-2 attacking half on Oregon, it's very rare for teams to lose with that.
10 seconds to insertion.
I think one major thing that has been allowing Nocturnes to actually get a couple rounds in the books here against Karn&Co has been that small element of surprise and the lack of proper information by Karn&Co. We saw nobody drone out meeting directly before walking down the back stairs, allowing Nyx to get a vital pick and then actually repositioning almost immediately and then going back to stage to get a kill during the final parts of that endgame position for Karn&Co. And on top of that, when they began to properly drone, they didn't set themselves up in a way to actually get a kill in that advantageous position with the information. So if we still see this be a major problem on the last round, there is a really good chance that we see the Nocturns actually equalize, moving into the second half with a potential chance of having it 3-3.
Oh, Nyx again, playing with fire like we saw. I believe Feltwinter do earlier. Drone will be sent in, and they're saying, hey, surprise, surprise, there's an Aruni playing aggressive on this doorway. If you couldn't tell by the DMR shots flying around the corner, well, now you know. You have empirical evidence of Nyx trying to find a pick on this angle, or at least causing some concern in the hearts for Karn&Co. Instead, the attack is moving very quickly down back tower stairs. They've already destroyed some utility. Doesn't look like they're going to make a full play for it just yet. Still getting very aggressive. Now opening up that stage wall as well. Nyx has to be careful where he steps in that area. He might have even retreated inside of kitchen, and yes, he has. So about a minute 15 wasted for Karn&Co as they move through the middle floor.
Still having all the time in the world here. Not too sure if the hatch has actually been opened up or not. That could also allow for less time to be wasted here by Karn&Co once they make their way lower through backstairs once again. Some good intel being gathered by that bulletproof camera. Able to maybe go for a wide swing perhaps. Maybe some sort of team play by both Exot and Poison, with Callum currently calming out for the Melusi in case someone gets over aggressive on this swing and they'll be met with a fatal headshot. So the positioning here by Nocturns overall is looking very good, and with, again, no rotation just yet by Karn&Co, things are looking worrisome, but just in the background we see the silhouettes actually begin to work their way lower in through blue bunker. So all they need to do is just have the utility and the timing proper by everybody to make sure this clear goes into full effect, because their positioning right now is not too shabby at all.
Well, things are orderly for Karn&Co, but the Lord of Chaos himself, Nightmare Nyx, inside of kitchen right now as Feltwinter drops and Karn&Co moves downward. There's one lone Aruni with the DMR and behind Karn&Co on their back lines who can still harass them and cause some problems. Karn&Co aren't too concerned right now. They've moved their way into bunker, but fortunately there's bandit batteries there, so they'll have to do some very late utility clear, but Mikey minimizes any chance for Nyx winning this round for Nocturns, shuts him down on the flank, and now they can fully turn their attention towards the site. But with all the utility that Nocturns still have, 2 C4s and 2 toxic canisters, 2 kills as well, and now that Slothy goes huge. It's looking like a 3-3 split for Nocturns unless something goes awry. Feltwinter will stake his claim on an individual play up long haul, but he's shut down by Exot. A triple for the Melusi so far. Karn hoping that Whitlock can do his due diligence on solo coverage. His faith pays off as Whitlock gets 3 as well, but Lackey's down to 1 HP and a 4K for the hard breach. 4-2 half for Karn&Co as they might have pushed against impossible odds, but Whitlock showed up when his team needed him.
And in the perfect moment, we had Whitlock just observe the smallest of openings to have plenty of coverage there for his team to actually get that plant down. We saw a small adaptation by Karn&Co where they had somebody actually go freezer to alleviate one of those big areas on the map that was kind of an issue for them when they were trying to go for the plant the last time that basement site was in play for Nocturns. It didn't work out fully, although we did have Mike actually get that opening pick as a win. It was quickly traded back, and Nocturns even put themselves in a 4v3, but just getting overtly carried away with trying to stop a regular default plant and not any aggression at the last second there by Karn&Co. It costed them that lack of knowledge that Whitlock was just trying to run at them and go for those kills, which worked out favorably for him on the Habana, and it allowed just enough chaos, like you had talked about briefly while going in that execute, to allow Karn&Co to really sweep Nocturns off their feet and still have a 4-2 split on their attacks. That is a tremendous statement to make, and now all they've got to do is just play some pretty default siege and just do good on their basics, and they should have a very feasible time here on this defensive side, despite the fact there is still a Thatcher potentially on the board on any of these rounds here for Nocturns.
One of the best additions for Karn&Co with this new roster with Mikey and Feltwinter. I mean, we had Whitlock and Xeno before who have always been standouts on this roster, but they have some players where being in the face of the attack or the defense, even though Mikey's playing flex now, but at least in terms of what he likes to do on defense, Karn&Co has a lot more players to actually harass the attackers when they try to get in the building. Mikey might be in their face. He's 9-4 right now. On flank watch, he was doing great. Now that he's on Melusi, maybe he'll try to get more into the attack's face. Xeno playing aggressive inside a freezer, or he was before. He's now rotated out. Could see a lot of players on Karn&Co with the momentum and the wind in their sails try to stop Nocturns from entering the building. And if anything can trip up Nocturns, historically speaking, even before this roster, it tends to be aggression, but specifically aggression that is nonstop in your face.
Well, we have for Nocturns here at least already opening up that freezer door, and just about ready to start gathering information to see if anyone's actually playing aggressively there. That will be the case. I believe it's actually Carnage on the smoke. Yeah, it would be correct on that. They're a terror drone, forcing him farther back, but at least he didn't end up falling in that position, so that's still a point of contention. That's not going to be too difficult for Karn&Co to actually hold off for the time being. And for Nokturns, they are still just going in through that regular process of getting the hatches opened up and figuring out how exactly they want to approach in these next couple of moments.
A bomb has been located.
Spot a player playing behind that shield, so hopefully we'll see a couple nades sent on through. None just yet, as everyone from Nokturns is not around those hatches at the moment, still on that top floor. Might be a whole rotation right now, all the way over to back tower. We see Poison opening up that security hatch, but with the pillar one open, John, are they completely doing a 180 from where they were just a couple seconds ago?
I think so. They might not be fully comfortable with getting rid of the shield player of Xeno, perhaps, in Freezer, so they want to completely change what they want
With
to actually
Flores
accomplish
and
here.
6
They've got
nades?
Yeah, I find that a little hard to believe, but it looks like they want to go for more of a presence near pillar. That grenade almost catches Whitlock at a bad time, but thankfully he'll survive it. But yeah, having this full rotation just seemed a bit questionable, but it looks like Nokturns are fully prepared to get this show on the road in these next 40 seconds because they are in the right positions, but it looks like they're actually having second thoughts, perhaps.
I was going to say, because if you wanted to try to say take bunker, I think Poison was out of X-Kairos. He could not make Feltwinter's position really uncomfortable, and we'll jump all the way back over to Freezer. A lot of indecision from Nokturns right now, and I think it's made evident, but it's a 5v1 after they go for the rotation, and Karn&Co start out their second half with another flawless round on basement. Nokturns struggling to decide which side to attack, and it didn't matter in the mind of Karn&Co.
I guess not. I mean, a good way of punishing Nokturns there for not fully making up their mind, but I really don't know why Nokturns were having second thoughts. Maybe having somebody late rotate, perhaps, on Big Tower stairs, that's a good idea, because you're going to have someone, especially when you're attacking from Freezer and Laundry, someone sitting near pillar, someone maybe playing all the way in the back of Blue Bunker if that rotation hole is made near elbow. So it's not a bad idea to get maybe 1 or 2 people in that direction to just cause a ruckus, but don't have your entire team go there, especially when you have the tools capable of getting rid of that shield, removing the Ela player, and still having a decent time when it comes to going for that Laundry and Freezer push. I think Nokturns just got a little bit too scared of their own shadow and went for a play that they weren't really in a good position to fully commit to.
2 flawless rounds for Karn&Co now, both on basement. We'll see how Dorms treats them. Only one time, by the way, has Dorms been played, and it's been 7 rounds of Oregon. It was one time. Nokturns went for it for their defense, and, well, they ended up losing it. So probably, if you're just now tuning in, put 2 and 2 together as to why Nokturns didn't decide to go to that on their defense. Here, see something that we don't actually see too often, at least. We'll see Mikey push all the way into Armory, perhaps even holding it for the time being. He's made feet holes and master bedroom as well to see if anybody perhaps pushes in. Who knows? But the problem with these Armory positions is if you move from that hatch and there's somebody down below with a nade, it's very difficult to survive.
Well, and I think we're not going to have that proven just yet. Actually, Xeno's the first one to die, not in the position of Armory, but still, it's a win for Nokturns, having that 5v4, and Mikey just sees a couple of tracers whiz right past his head, and even hears the audio
Smart
call
play
by the Finka, but they get way too close for comfort. Mikey able to play both close and longer ranges. What a brilliant recovery so far by Karn&Co, and Nokturns really having no clue what just hit them. They thought it'd be a very straightforward process of killing that player inside of Armory, but Mike ended up finding 2 kills before eventually falling, and even having backup by Feltwinter as well. This has completely changed the dynamic of the round here for Nokturns entirely, as now they're the ones in the disadvantage here, Carter.
I might have been 1 round early when I said we'd see Mikey and Feltwinter get aggressive, but I was right in the end. That is the power these 2 players bring to that roster. They put Feltwinter behind a shield with the FMG-9, so when players start pushing into bedroom, either to get the wall open to deal with Mikey, he starts peeking out like Bolo, just taking down heads left and right. Mikey as well knows that he's probably a dead man if he stays still inside of Armory. Get aggressive with that shotgun. Try to dodge those nades, and both players worked out perfectly in the mission that they went for. Now, Nokturns, they have a minute 20 seconds, and it's not undoable. It's only a 2v3. Poison has even opened up Attic. There's still a lot of work to do with not a lot of utility to do it with.
No grenades. Plenty of drones, though, and time to gather that intel. That's at least something for Nokturns. Nyx, though, going on a very interesting play up near White Stairway. You're going to make a bunch of noise when you walk up through those stairs, even while crouching. So if Carnage is able to use his ears for a couple of seconds, that can give away the intentions of one player, and then you just have to worry about Poison, who is stomping around like crazy near deer. So that's the information of these last two attackers. So this is really a make or break, especially for Nyx, to see what he can get away with and how much space he can create. And currently, it's absolutely nothing. It's only Poison left to stand. He may find one, but it's just a simple trade by the Jaeger, and it's going to be Karn&Co to take yet another one on their defenses.
Now, I'm not going to blame Nyx too much. He had a lot to worry about. He had, potentially players around the bunk bed, players inside of dorms, but did not check hard right on the breach. That is a very common position, and I suppose today, Nyx was not lucky in the positions he was clearing, actually having defenders in them. So good 2K by Whitlock to round that out, but really Nocturnes just went to go clear Feltwinter and Mikey out of their positions inside of Trophy and Armory, and failed spectacularly. Part just because of Feltwinter able to hide behind that shield. Part also Mikey having some very nice split-second decisions and a nice shot outside Armory window as well. But they won that dominantly in the early round, and now all they have to do, even if they lose this, is win an Oregon defense. Just one to close us out in regulation. John, I'm not a betting man. I'm very cautious, very frugal. I'd probably bet most of my money that they can win at least one Oregon defense after the match we've seen from Karn&Co.
Impossible. Simply not capable. We cannot have cookies wrong on the analyst test. The Nocturnes somehow have to come back and make their redemption arc. Clearly, that is the new outcome. But yes, we have seen Karn&Co tremendous on their defenses. And really, Nocturnes kind of at a standstill, really, a lot of these rounds. Funny enough, they are not bringing out the Thatcher that many times, despite the fact we are seeing a lot of util-based compositions by Karn&Co, and that really could alleviate a lot of the presence here by Karn&Co, yet that small adaptation not being made that much by Nocturnes. They're trying to stick to what they're comfortable with, and so far, that has not been enough to really catch Karn&Co really in that bad of a situation ever. Even when they're playing in positions to die, like Mikey, for example, last round, he's still able to bring a couple people to the grave with him before he eventually falls, which is very unnerving, especially for the Nocturne fans in chat.
Mikey was in one of those positions where you're playing for your life. He's all the way at the top of Big Tower. Once he realized that nobody's pushing him, he just sadly picked up both his ADSs and said, "Oh, I don't get my moment. I'll have to go back to the site." Karn is wishing he switched places with Mikey because a frag grenade was sent in very early on and put him to about 1 HP. So for your smoke player, and especially for Karn, that's a bit of a worrying sign if the pace is suddenly going to quicken quite rapidly from Nocturnes, depending on what they do. Mikey will also now fully reposition his utility inside of Attic as the attack starts moving on in for the kill on these couple roamers upstairs. Smoke canisters blocking Lackey's way right now, but he's waiting with that LMG to start unleashing it onto the player all the way sat atop that bunk bed. He'll play back just for a moment as Karn loses even a little bit more HP. Nocturne's still waiting, playing their positions. They'll finally start to move in as Lackey goes forth, but no, they don't know Xeno's there. He just sprints, or maybe he was bait for the 1-for-1. Nyx takes down Xeno, so they'll hold for the time being, but there's still Feltwinter. Didn't account for that. He gets one, almost two with 1 HP, sends out a spiteful impact grenade in response as Karn&Co hold on to the lead in the final minute.
Still shocked we had nobody go Addict. It was essentially a funnel leading into that top floor extension, and now Nocturnes have to completely switch things up once again. And we've got Mikey just waiting for him. 2 quick headshots, and just like that, we've got Karn&Co ending out the series 7-2, favoring their side. And I mean, we had a lot of hope here for Nocturnes, but they just never had the moments to really get a good read on their opponents, and they kept making the same similar mistakes